So today is day 10 of me recording myself every day till I'm successful, right? So as you already can see, different setting today. We in a crib, got the podcast behind us, but we doing something a little different. We taking a break from the book because as y'all saw yesterday, chapter 9, we read about, what was the name of the chapter? I can actually just tell you. How to use the power of your subconscious for wealth, right? And I watched this podcast yesterday after I did the video. I was driving and I ended up watching this podcast, and it was so good and it related in so much ways to what we read about that I'm like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to bring this to them. It's also 4 a.m. because I got to work in a little bit and I'm going to be working all day. So I was like, I got to get this video out for them before, right? So I'm up at 4 recording this. So if I'm not talking as loud and with as much energy and getting as lit as I usually do, that's why. You feel me? So let's get right into it.
The reason why I say this is because you really have to understand that you can do it. Now, there's a difference between now what I'm talking right now and thinking and growing rich. Mm-hmm. Because if we kind of now dissect this, everybody wants this outcome. And the outcome is, I want financial freedom. I want to be rich. I want to be wealthy. I want cash flow. You can use whatever term you want for that outcome, right? We want some sort of financial freedom. In order to receive this outcome, you have to go back a little bit, which means I have to take certain actions, right? I have to do things with my money. I have to do things to achieve this outcome. But let's go back even more. How do you get that action to happen? I have to have a thought to go out and do something with money, right? I have to think I need to invest. I have to think that I can become wealthy. And this is where most people think that you have to start, right? Think and grow rich. If I think rich, I can take the right actions and have the right outcome. But that's a lie. Because what you'll realize, many of us have this, is in the back of our minds, you might have this little voice saying, I know this is not true. So you can sit there and say, I'm going to grow rich and try to manifest this wealth. I'm going to grow rich. I'm going to become wealthy. Money is going to fall into my laps. But it won't happen if that voice in the back of your mind is saying, I know I'm just doing this so I can have this outcome. I don't know if it's true. Somebody like me can't become wealthy. Somebody that looks like me can't actually do it. Somebody from my background, somebody with my upbringing, somebody with whatever circumstances I have can't do it. And when you have that back of that mind thought, it doesn't matter what you're thinking. You're trying to outspeak your mind. It doesn't work like that.
So your mind and your words and your actions need to be in congruency and alignment.
Right. And that's where we need to go one step back, right? We talked about we want this outcome. You need to take an action to have that outcome. You need to have a thought to have that action. But what's before the thought? I call this your subconscious or your pre-thought, where this is now really getting into your true beliefs, not just your thought, your true subconscious beliefs. And that's what you have to work on first. That way you can actually think the right things so you can have the right outcomes. Because what ends up happening if you're just thinking this with the frontal part of your mind, and I don't know which part of your brain does this, I'm just saying this. If you're just thinking this, but you really know deep down that money is evil, money is bad, I can't become wealthy, you're never going to actually achieve the outcome that you want, which is why you have to start with really that deep understanding of your relationship with money and why you have that. Because the real reason why generation or poverty is generational isn't because of the circumstances that you're dealt with externally. It's because you grew up being told, we can't have this, we can't afford nice things, we don't have money for this, we're not rich like them, rich people are evil. When you grow up hearing this, you grow up living life thinking this is true.
So this is a podcast from Lewis Howes' School of Greatness. He has Jaspreet Singh on there. That's the guy that we're listening to talk to. What I noticed from that was all rich people say the same thing, right? In so many ways, what he just said in that quote and that timestamp that we just listened to, it relates to so many things that we just literally read about yesterday, right? Which is that mind and having the belief in things and how important the money beliefs that you have in your head are, right? So one thing that he said in there was your true relationships and feelings toward money represent your mindset, right? And how you really feel. And he even brought up the subconscious, what we've been talking about, right? So that subconscious is what we truly believe. So as he said, if you're telling yourself these things, but in the back of your mind, you're hearing, no, this isn't true, I can never do this, then you have to go back and backtrack to see, okay, where some of these beliefs came from and how they originated. And then after you do that, we can dissociate from them.
What I'm hearing you say is if every individual watching or listening does not take 100% responsibility for their beliefs around money, they will pass on generational money traumas to their children or the people around them because they'll be speaking beliefs that are limiting instead of abundant.
Absolutely.
And so how does someone who has been conditioned for decades around certain money beliefs all of a sudden educate themselves, get the tools, get the information, and say, no, everything I've been taught for the last 20, 30 years of my life is a lie around money.
Yeah.
And therefore, have I been living a lie myself? Am I a fraud? Are these people around that have been telling me this, can I trust them? My parents, like your whole world blows up, essentially.
It does.
It blows up. And so how does someone navigate the emotions of, all these things my parents who I love, who are well-intended, have taught me around money, have kind of been holding me back. And I understand they try to protect me, but it's really limited me. How do we deal with that? And then start educating ourselves to break free of money limits, of money scarcity, of money insecurity, so that we can have more financial peace and emotional peace around money.
I think you got to start with this, understanding if somebody doesn't have what it is that you want, you probably shouldn't listen to them on how to get where you want to go. And your parents might have the best intentions. Your family might have the best intentions, but they might not know how to get to where you want to go, right? The common saying is don't listen to a fat person on how to lose weight.
This is so important, right? Watch who you take advice from. And you might be saying, well, Shay, why the fuck am I taking advice from you? You're not rich, right? I'm not rich. But I'm not here giving y'all advice. Like I said from day one, that's not my goal. I'm not trying to sit here and act like I'm a monk or I'm a guru or I'm rich or I'm trying to teach people things. I'm not trying to sell y'all no course or nothing. I'm literally just documenting my journey of learning. Literally, I'm just the middleman. I'm just like y'all. I'm not faking none of this. Y'all see me watching this stuff. Y'all seeing me reading these books. Y'all see the things that I'm doing, and I'm just sharing the information with y'all that other people that are successful are doing, that other people that are successful are seeing. Right? So watch who you take advice from. Like you said, you don't. So for example, what I'm going to talk about is your mother, for example, or your father, who give you these things, and they tell you, for example, oh, we don't do that. Money doesn't work that way. Oh, you can't have that. And once you realize that those aren't your thoughts, you can separate yourself from those thoughts because you realize where they came from, right? So that's why it's so important to go back and see where these beliefs that I have came from. Oh, why do I think this way? And once you realize why you think that way, and once you realize where they came from, you have the power to see them as that. Like, wait, whole time, these aren't even my beliefs. These are what my mother taught me or what my father taught me. And it's so powerful that once you realize that, you can have the power to take it away and choose to believe something different and think differently. But today, this is a great podcast. I'm going to leave the link into the description so you can watch the whole thing. But he talks about a lot of other financial things. But since we're talking about the mindset and we're starting with step one, which is the mindset that he said you have to have the belief, the positive beliefs around money. So I'm focusing on more of things that he talks about revolving around that in this podcast. But you have the ability to click the link in the description. I'll leave it if you want to go watch the whole thing yourself.
You're going to make a lot of money in your lifetime. I don't care how much money you're making. If you make 50 grand a year, in the next 10 years, you're going to make $500,000. In the next 2 decades, you're going to make $1 million.
Wow.
Assuming you never get another raise, which means you're going to make millions of dollars over the course of your career. And most people will have nothing to show for it. And when I say most people, I don't say this generally. I mean, statistically, most people will have nothing to show for it, which means now, as you go through life earning this money, what are you doing it for? Are you doing it to look rich, or are you doing it to actually build wealth? And you got to decide that for you, right? I can't come here and tell you, oh, it's important for you to build wealth, and then you listen to me. You got to decide that for yourself because you want to take better care of yourself. your wife, your husband, and your kids, and your parents, and you want to have a better future than today. And that's what investing is really for.
Now, this one I really love, right? So what he says is, are you trying to look rich or build wealth? And I was so passionate about that because I feel like that's something that so many of us struggle with today, especially with Instagram and things like that, TikTok, whatever you use. But with social media in general, it's just so much trying to live up to this lifestyle and expectations and comparing yourself with other people. You go on Instagram, you're going to see 20-year-olds with fast cars and big houses, and it can make you feel worse about yourself, right? But when you truly have that fulfillment and that's not what you care about, then you don't have to worry about things like that. But what he says is, are you trying to look rich or build wealth? Right? So there's nothing wrong with either. But if you want to choose wealth, then that's when it becomes a problem. Right? So if you don't want to choose wealth, if you want to live that lifestyle at this age and you feel like, because some people do feel that way, like you feel like 20 is just your time where you should be fucking it up. You should be having a good life and you should be out partying and experience it because you'll never be 20 again. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you choose. But if you want to choose wealth, then you have to realize that trying to live that lifestyle right now and trying to keep up with everybody is harming you. You want to know why? Because you're choosing short-term gratification over long-term or your future. Right? And it's not so extreme as to, okay, I can't do nothing. Like, dang, that mean I got to stay in the house all day. He talks about it in such a good way. Just don't spend all your money. You feel me? Don't spend more money than you have. I've fell victim to that before, like credit cards and overspending. Like, it's so hard to do. I mean, it's so easy to do because sometimes we don't even track it. Like I said, we aren't taught a lot of this stuff growing up. We aren't taught financial literacy, money management, budgeting. And that's why it's our responsibility to go and educate ourselves on these things if we do want wealth. You feel me? And learn how we can invest, learn how to budget our money, learn how not to overspend, learn how to track our spend and things like that. And this isn't I don't intend for this to be like a financial video, financial literacy. I want to focus more so on the mindset behind money because that's what we're starting off with. So I ain't going to get too sidetracked because we will end up talking about like more money related topics later on down the road. But yeah, so number one, why that's a problem is because there's no true fulfillment. There's no true fulfillment within that true fulfillment where you're trying to keep up with everybody or you're trying to prove this lifestyle to other people that majority of them you don't even know, or you're trying to impress these people that you don't even know. Yeah, you might be fulfilled. It might make you feel good short term, which is the ego, which is that ego that we talked about and we've been talking about, right? That part of you might be fulfilled. That part of you might be happy. Yeah, I just got this bust down diamond watch. But after a week, probably that shit don't even feel, you don't even think about it no more. It's just there, right? So if you want to build wealth, you can't choose the short-term gratification over your future. It's just that simple. And number two, like I said, for those who want to build wealth, there's nothing wrong with if you don't want to build wealth. You can still take about other things that he says too, or things that I say. But as he says, don't spend it all. And he talks about that a lot. It's not like you have to be so frugal and poor. It's just track your spending. Like, don't overspend. Don't buy fancy cars and fancy houses or eat 5-star meals every day. Just, it don't got to be as extreme. You can be extreme if you want to be. If you want to decide to never do nothing and stay in the crib all day, then that's what you could do too. That's the best thing about life. We all have a choice. Yeah, let's get into the next one.
If you're spending all of your money, you're never going to build wealth. And now you got to figure out, what are you going to cut out?
But Jaspreet, I've got my parents who need support. I've got family members who are struggling. I've got my friends that want to go out on the bars 3 times a week and concerts and activities. And I got to buy nice clothes for my job. And I've got to commute to work. And I've got to do all these things that cost a lot of money.
Yep.
Jaspreet, what do I do?
Where you put your focus, you're going to see the biggest results. If you want to lose weight, you got to put your exercise and your focus in the gym. You got to put your focus on your diet. If you want to advance in your career, you got to put more focus on your job and learning how to advance in your career. If you want to build more wealth, you got to put your focus on learning how to do that and changing the way you spend your money. And it's really just a matter of priorities.
But as he says, prioritize, right? You have to prioritize your health. If you want to get better, same thing. You have to prioritize getting better. You have to prioritize, maybe I can't drink every day because I know it's not the best for me. I'm not going to feel the best. I'm not going to be in the best mood. I have to prioritize learning and reading and focusing on my breath work and things like that. Same thing with wealth. If you really want this shit, like if you really say you want it, just like a good way to think about it is, how can I think that me buying this Gucci bust down watch and this fucking Von Dutch trucker hat fits to match my Rick Owens that I'm about to wear with the Mary jeans? How the fuck? Was that a W fit? That shit might have been ass. I don't even know. I can't even imagine what that looked like. I just said a bunch of designers. But really think about to yourself. Like, when you actually think, if I say I want this, if I really say I want this, how can me doing this stuff be more important than my future that I say I want so bad? How can me trying to keep up with other people be more important? And it's selfish a way when you really think about it. It's selfish if your why, if you have a strong why. That's why it's so important to have a why. If your why is so important, like my why, the reason why I want to do this stuff, the reason why I do things, the reason why I stay focused, and I don't need to share that with y'all because that's sacred to me, but the reason I want to do things is so strong to me that I literally see it as selfish if I choose myself and choose how I feel over the reason why I do these things. You know what I mean? Because I'm thinking that I matter so more than those things. No way. But yeah, like if you really think about it, it needs to be a priority. Simple as that.
I'm so glad you said this is number one, to invest in yourself, because I believe when you bet on you and you make the challenging decision to say, you know what, I'm going to buy these books, courses, go to events where I can actually learn. I'm going to hire a coach or a mentor, whatever it might be, where I can learn something and I can accelerate the learning curve and I can get there a little faster by gaining wisdom and knowledge from people who have already been through all the mistakes, who already are way farther ahead than me. When you can learn from others and invest in yourself in developing a new skill or gaining knowledge, you give yourself the best chance of being free psychologically, emotionally, and financially. And obviously investing in yourself and getting the wisdom and the knowledge is one thing. You have to apply the knowledge and apply the habit of the actions daily, consistently over time. Otherwise, the knowledge is pointless in a sense. But I'm so glad you said that, because most people don't invest in themselves.
Yeah.
And there's a quote, before you go to the next three, there's a quote that you said, is that our system is designed to keep the majority of people broke financially and poor mentally. And if the system is designed to keep us broke and poor, then we must be betting on ourselves by investing in ourselves so that we can navigate with ease when the system or systems may be trying to hold us back.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is corporations profit when you spend your money. They profit even more when you spend your money in debt. Banks profit when you're in debt. The government profits when you're in debt and don't understand money. And you might say, well, what? Well, yeah, they profit when you don't understand money, because that means you're just an employee and you're just a consumer.
So what did we say here? It's so important to get educated, because that's why I say you shouldn't feel bad or judge yourself, because I wasn't. I'm sure many of us out there, we aren't taught this stuff about this stuff growing up. We never talked about money in my household. That was never a topic. We never talked about money management, budget spending. We never talked about money. And there's nothing against my mom I grew up with my mom. I was going to say my dad, but I didn't. You feel me? It is what it is. But it's nothing against my mom. And because she probably wasn't talking about money in her household. And her mom my grandmother probably wasn't talking about money in their household. It's just not a topic that a lot of people could talk about, because we have a lot of insecurities rooted in us around money, because we aren't educated on it, right? So it's important for us, if you want to build that wealth, to take responsibility and go out there and get educated, right? So also they talk about mentors. It's important to go out there and seek people who are doing what you want to do or in a position that you want to be in. And they, like they said, they can speed the process up because they can have you avoid mistakes that maybe they made. Now, I'm lucky enough, I'm blessed enough to have people in my life who I can reach out to who are in these situations that I want to be in, like friends and family who are successful and people that I can directly reach out to. But you might not have that. And you might have to go out there and actually seek these people, go out there and find people, which I also do. Like, I also go out there and try my best to talk to people. You feel me? But also, I was watching Jay Shetty, and he makes a very valid point. You don't have to go do that because nowadays we have so much information online, which is accessible if you want to go find it, to where we can learn from people that we've never met a day in our life, through podcasts, through books. We can even learn from people who aren't living anymore, right? So if you want to be a singer, you can literally go watch Michael Jackson documentaries. You can go read books on his autobiographies. You can go watch videos and stuff where you can learn things from them, right? So it's not, you don't only need to seek people. You can have the ability to educate yourself based on their experience in their life, but it's up to you to go find that information, but it's out there. So it also talks about that poor mentality, right? So that's, what do they say? That's what I'm telling y'all. What I'm noticing the most is that all successful people, all rich people, they all literally say the same thing, which shows us what? It's a mentality to be rich. They all have that same mentality. Just like most poor people, they have the same mentality, right? You go around a bunch of people in the hood, they all think the same way around money for the most part, in some way, shape, or form, right? So that tells us that poor people and rich people have a different mentality. So if you want to be rich, you have to learn how rich people think. So for example, when investing or trying to make money in something, rich people see it as an opportunity. They see it as, okay, I'm going to take this chance and I can make a lot of money off of it. Versus poor people, they just think about the risk of it and think about how much money they can lose from doing this, right? And I know that we might think about that and think, well, of course, they're rich, so like, why they don't have to be as worried about it because they're not poor, they're not in the situation that I am. And I can say that because that's the same thing that I thought about, like when I first heard things like that. I'm like, well, of course, you're not going to be as worried if you're already rich, right? But these people didn't start off rich. I mean, some people did. Some people started off, they turned $1 million to 10 million or something. But a lot of these people, they didn't start off rich. So the same way, they had to start off believing themselves, right? They had to start off believing. They believed in the first place, and they still believe in their ability. So regardless, they still had to change that mindset, because poor people, you feel me? It's two different things. They don't even believe that they can get started because they're so scared. So focus on changing that mindset. Focus on being a person who believes in yourself, somebody who believes that you can do it, someone who goes out and gets educated and things like that.
Our economic system is designed to keep people poor. The government continues to spend money, which creates inflation, which keeps people poor. And this is where now, in order for you to break out of that system, you have to, number one, learn the system. Number two, believe you can do it. Number three, do something about it.
Regardless, you have to believe, right? And then get started. So this is something that Rob Kiyosaki talked about in the cash flow quadrant. He says, investing isn't risky. Investing while uneducated is risky, right? So a lot of people want to get started. A lot of people get started don't want to get started because they're afraid of the risk. But as he says here, educate yourself. That's what Shaestackz Singh talks about in this podcast. Educate yourself and then get started. So same way Rob Kiyosaki says, investing isn't risky. How so many of us think about it as a risk. Investing without being educated is the risky part. So if we don't know about anything, of course it's going to be risky to dive right into it. But if you build up that knowledge and become confident in it, then you'll have more confidence in it. It's not as risky. All right, so then take action. And another book that I'm going to relate to is The Secret of the Millionaire Mind. We talked about that yesterday. I highly encourage people we're going to read that. like later on, I know it for sure because it's so powerful to me. But I do encourage you, if you don't want to wait for me to read it, go cop it yourself and read that. Like that book is one of them ones for sure. But he talks about taking action and relates it to the difference with the poor mentality versus the rich people mentality, right? So a rich person, they take action and they don't wait. Like they get educated, yes, they learn as much as they can in as little as time as possible, and then they get started and they're confident in themselves that along the way they'll learn what they need to know from getting started, right? Versus a poor person, they procrastinate on it, they never get started, or they educate themselves for so long and tell themselves that they're waiting for this perfect opportunity, but really they're just lying to themselves, and they're really just educating themselves for too long that they don't even ever get started. You feel me? So that's the difference. Rich people are confident that they'll figure it out along the way, versus poor people, they want to figure it out. They want to take forever to figure out exactly how this works. Versus a rich person, they jump in and they're confident in their abilities. They believe in themselves. So that's what's the difference in changing that mindset. First, they believe in themselves that they'll figure it out along the way. Versus a poor person, they might not even get started ever because they're procrastinating. They're really scared and they're covering it up with trying to figure it out to the perfect abilities. How can I make this 100% work? But nothing is guaranteed to 100% work at the end of the day. You just got to believe in yourself and believe in your abilities.
There's a difference between being hard and being impossible. It might be hard. It might be hard because of the cards you're dealt. It might be difficult because of the circumstances you've had. It might be difficult because of certain things that have happened in your life. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's impossible. And if you are in a first world country, it is possible. But number one, you got to believe. You got to believe. And there's a lot of negative people out there. Misery loves company. It is very easy to find, especially when you've been punched in the face, especially when you've been scammed, especially when you've been screwed over. But if you look at any successful person, they've gone through a lot of crap.
Yes.
And there's a saying that says, successful people have failed more times than most people have even tried.
What do we talk about again? Like I said, they all speak about the same things to some extent. What is he talking about? You must believe in yourself. I know it sounds like a repeated record, but you must believe in that mind. You must believe in your capabilities. You must. And how does that start? How do you get to believe? You get started by working on that mind, that subconscious mind, and what you truly believe, not what you're telling yourself in the back of your mind. You're fighting against it. You got to work on what you truly believe. And as he said here, failure. He says, successful people have failed more than the average person has even tried to do things, right? So what does that tell us? It tells us that failure is inevitable. And I know that because I'm not even successful yet. And I failed at so many things that don't even make sense. Like not even just YouTube I'm talking about like so many things that I've tried in my past, trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to be different things. And I was in this space at first where I saw it as a problem. Like, dang, I keep fucking up and it was a problem. Versus when I changed my mindset towards it, I started being okay and comfortable with failing. I started seeing it as, okay, I'm failing. I'm getting closer to where I want to be because I'm learning. I'm growing through these failures. I started really diving into why I was failing. Like, what am I doing wrong in these situations? And I began to learn. You feel me? So once you change that perspective on things, once you change your mind and how you think towards things, it helps a lot. Like, your perspective on things is everything, right? So think about that.
Distance yourself from social media. And I do. If I add on that just a little bit, there's going to be winners and losers with everything. With money, there's going to be winners and losers. When the markets go down, there's going to be winners and losers. When markets go up, there's going to be winners and losers. The losers are people that are not in. The winners are people that are seeing their investments go up. When markets go down, the losers are people that are selling. The winners are people that are now buying good assets at a discounted price. It's the same thing with social media. You got winners and you got losers. And this is where a lot of people hate it, but it exists. Some people are going to win. People that are using social media as a tool to learn, as a tool to improve, or as a tool to build something, you're winning. versus the majority of people are using it to make themselves broker and stupider.
Yeah.
There's going to be winners and losers.
Now, this one, I can go on a rant about all day. Distance yourself from social media. Right now, I've been off social media for years. Like, if I didn't want to do YouTube, I wouldn't even have Instagram. And I mean that. Like, it's so much better without it. But as he says, we can use it or it can use us. Right? So regardless, even if you don't want to get off Instagram, because that can be extreme, I do think it's important to be able to take breaks of it, because you don't want to let it become a part of your life to where you need it. You know what I mean? Where you need it. Keyword, you don't want to have to need social media. Like, you don't want to feel like, dang, if social media goes away, what would I do in my life? You never want to have to feel that way. And also, social media, if you're not using it in a positive way, it can really affect your mental in a lot of ways, bro. With those things that we talked about, like comparison, not feeling like you're doing enough in your life, even if you're doing a lot. Like, when you go on social media, it's always going to be somebody who seems to be doing better, or you're always distracting yourself and watching videos, and it's addicting too. Like, it's addicting to where you can distract yourself for hours and be on TikTok scrolling and not even peep, damn, my hour just go by and I just wasted my whole day. Or 3 hours went by and I've been watching TikToks and Twitters, Reels, and Instagrams all day, and you won't even realize it, right? So even if I do think it's important to take breaks, because you are able to detach from it when you take breaks, and it doesn't become a part of who you are. And then, as he also says, you can use it as a tool, or you can use it to consume things that aren't benefiting you. So you choose how you use it. That's the beautiful part about life. That's what's so great about life. We all have a choice, right? So you can choose how you want social media to be used in your life.
I can think back when I was living on my sister's couch for 1.5 years in Columbus, Ohio, with, I don't know, close to $30,000 in student loan debt. I was fortunate. I was one of the fortunate ones not to have $200,000 in student loans debt or more. And I remember I was injured. I had a cast on from surgery for 6 months, so I was unable to kind of physically do manual labor jobs. I didn't have my college degree yet, and this was in 2007, 8, and 9 when the economy crashed, the mortgage, industry crashed. And they weren't hiring people with masters, let alone people like me that didn't graduate college yet. So I remember feeling very down and out, very victimhood, and a lot of shame on top of that, because I wasn't contributing and earning any money, and I was living off of my sister, Catherine. Now, she had a job, and she was able to at least provide housing for me, and I was eating kind of the scraps of food that she would have left over. And I remember feeling a lot of shame, that I was thinking, why am I now an adult man that is unable to make money? This economy is really hard. I'm struggling. And I didn't have the right money beliefs also. I think I had some decent money beliefs, that I saw my dad do some things well, but there was so much pain and suffering and conflict within their marriage that things were tied and muddy around money as well. So I was confused about money. And I didn't know how I was going to make it. I didn't know who would pay me. Am I capable of making money? Do I have any skills to make money? Who's going to hire me? Where can I work? Could I start my own thing? I didn't have the belief around any of these things. But what you're saying right now is something that I started to do. I started to educate myself. And I started to read a lot. At that time, I was reading blogs. And I was reading like personal finance blogs, right? So I was learning. I read a book by Ramit Sethi called I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Yeah, great book.
That book over the next few years helped me pay off my student loans and start taking action. It didn't happen overnight, but it gave me a game plan to take action on paying it down, from $20 a month to hundreds of dollars a month, then paying it all off. And that created the snowball effect that you talked about. I started to build momentum little by little. It didn't happen overnight. Then I started to get creative and put myself out there and say, how can I earn a couple extra $100 a week? Let me try to help people with what I'm learning online. Let me try to create these events that I was starting to do. And I started to generate a little bit of cash. And from there, I built confidence and I built competence. Then I reinvested that money back into myself, what you talked about. Step one, invest in you. And I started getting coaches and mentors and going to events. And all these things gave me more confidence and competence. And I lost money along the way. I spent time on things that didn't work out. I had ups and downs, physical health challenges, relationship challenges. All these different things were happening at the same time. But as I look back now, 15, 16 years later, I see that by taking action and sticking with it, like you just shared, kind of the last point you shared, sticking with it over time, I have more than I've lost. I've learned more, I've experienced more, and there have been some extremely painful times. There has been betrayal, sadness, heartbreak, all these different things. But by being consistent and just doing a little bit better than you do worse, and making smarter decisions every time you make dumb mistakes, you will have more than you did before. And you will become a different person in the process.
Oh, yeah.
And I think if people can, it was really hard for me to see the future 16 years ago, 17 years ago, when I was on my sister's couch. It was near impossible to see, how am I going to make money? How am I going to create wealth? How am I going to have a financial freedom? How am I going to create this feeling of abundance inside of me and also in assets or in investments? How is this possible? It feels near impossible. And I think when you stop thinking about the end result of, okay, how do I make $1 million in the next couple of years? And you just start thinking about the next step today and being consistent with those actions and improving day after day, year after year, it'll eventually grow. And I hope that's what people take away from this interview and this episode, is that it doesn't happen overnight. You will feel and experience pain financially, physically, emotionally, psychologically in the process. But you can also experience a lot of beauty, fulfillment, and joy in the process as well.
I shared this story just because I felt like it was a great way to end this video off. Just because I'm sure so many of us can relate to all the things that he talked about, like those feelings of confusion, not feeling like you're doing enough, and shame, uncertainty. I'm sure so many of us can relate to that in so many ways. So that's literally why I wanted to share it, right? And this is also another example of, like how we talked about in the beginning, a person who's now rich, but they weren't always this person, right? And how did he change? From changing his mindset, as he said, he changed his beliefs around money. And instead of being a victim, instead of seeing himself as a victim for forever, because that wasn't getting him nowhere. When he was a victim, he just kept sitting there. He kept feeling bad for himself. Instead, he decided to take action. He decided to go out there and educate himself. He decided to go out there and learn and meet people and try things, try doing this and do that. And creative ideas just popped into his mind, and confidence began to grow as time went on. And as he says, it doesn't happen overnight, right? So a lot of times I feel like we feel a lot of shame and we don't feel our best selves when we're not pursuing our purpose, right? It's no better feeling, even if things aren't working out. If you're striving towards being your best self every single day, you'll go to sleep and wake up feeling good. Like, even if you aren't seeing the results right away, knowing that you're striving towards that is so much better than going to sleep and going throughout your whole day on some bullshit, being a slouch. I don't know if y'all know what a slouch is, but a slouch is basically like a nut, somebody who doesn't do nothing. Like, you just sit around all day. So if you go around just being a slouch, like, you'll feel much better being productive in your life. I'm sure we've all experienced that. You feel me? And that's what this whole journey is about. Like, I want to be able to go back and look on these things and have people, when I am at that time, like me and my brother literally just talked about that yesterday. Like, it's going to be so lit. I can't wait. I really can't wait. Like, when the time comes, this is literally about to be a fucking documentary of my life. And that's all I want to do. Like I said, I'm not trying to pretend like I'm rich already, or I'm not trying to pretend like I know everything, but I know for a fact I want to learn these things. And I'm not like, that's 100% true. I know for a fact I want to grow. I know for a fact I want to be better. I know for a fact that I'm going to keep striving and keep working. Like, and this is all a representation of me doing that in real time, day by day, taking it one day at a time. Like we said, I'm not trying to think. I'm trying my best not to think too far into the future. I'm not perfect. I still have thoughts, like I said, but I'm getting better at fighting those thoughts, and I'm the dominant one in my head now, like we talked about yesterday. Right, so focus on those daily habits to becoming successful, and just do it. Like, believe in yourself, bro. I hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm gonna wrap it up because I gotta get ready to go. But subscribe to the channel. Make sure you have that notifications on so y'all can be here for day 11. We're probably going to get back into the book tomorrow. We're on chapter 10. So yeah, subscribe so y'all can be here for that. Like the video, share it with a friend. Telegram link in the description if you want to join up. It's free to join. Go check it out. It's been your boy Shaestackz. Catch you on the next one. And I'm out.